begin just to say I'm Tara McCormick. I'm not actually from this cluster. I'm a guest speaker from the Intelligence and Security cluster. And I'm going to talk a little bit about foreign and security policy before I go, before I start. And I guess one of the things as when this talk was conceived, we thought, we kind of might not know what we're going to talk about, not knowing what the results would be, but as we have now got a Conservative majority government, really I'm going to talk about continuities in foreign policy and the things that obviously have serious domestic implications. The first thing I want to talk about is the government's counter-terrorism measures. So, okay, ladies and gentlemen, we know we've got a problem with ISIS. We also have a problem that there are, we know, young European men and women who want to murder their fellow citizens and claim it's all done in the name of religion. The questions are we existentially threatened by either? No. How do we understand and deal with the latter? So those are the questions. Now, I thought when I read the recently passed Counterterrorism and Security Act, it would be really difficult to surpass this in terms both of an incredible attack on our civil liberties and an absolutely idiotic approach to trying to resolve what's essentially a domestic social problem. But that was until I read about the new counter-extremism bill that's going to be introduced in the Queen's speech. We've also got the revival of the Communications Data Bill, otherwise nipply known as the Snoopers Charter, which was actually scuppered by the Lib Dems. And I just want to quote, there's not really time to go into it, I just want to quote from Cameron on the new counter-extremism bill. For too long, we've been a passively tolerant society, saying to our citizens, as long as you obey the law, we will leave you alone. Just think about that for a sec. So I never thought I'd say this, but I think we may soon be missing the Liberal Democrats. So I think we're going to see a continuity in terms of a serious attack on civil liberties and also extremely counterproductive policies. Secondly, I want to talk about Cameron's clueless foreign policy. First of all, quickly on Russia and Ukraine. Now, it's well known that in terms of diplomacy over Ukraine-Russia crisis, Cameron has really taken a back seat to Germany and France. But what we saw very recently was an utterly bizarre decision to send a handful of military trainers to Ukraine, 75. So kind of almost in a sort of fit of pique. Hey, don't forget about us. We're still a big player in the world. Take this, Putin. Now, it was shocking, really, because it was a decision that could have no strategic effect or military effect at all. It could only add to political tensions. And it was striking, it was the worst kind of thoughtless sort of PR foreign policy. So I think we'll see, unfortunately, more of the same. I also quickly wanted to flag up the what's going on in Iraq. Now, as probably most of us know, Britain has been bombing ISIS positions in Iraq. We've also been using drones to do this. Now, it's received remarkably little media debate, although there was a vote, of course, as people probably recall, in the House of Commons in the autumn. But the real point is, once again, it's an utterly kind of clueless foreign policy. We have no idea what we're trying to achieve in Iraq. So, unfortunately, I think we're going to see just more and more of these kind of very destructive kind of foreign policy without any real kind of thought behind it. Okay, finally, I want to talk about Europe. Now, possibility, we know, of a Brexit, as it's called. Now, I personally don't think that Cameron's Tories are some kind of, serious, old-fashioned conservatives who really want to reassert sovereignty. They do exist in the Tory party, but I don't think that represents the core of the kind of new Tories. It seems to me the pledge for a referendum was really a kind of panicky reaction to UKIP, obviously misplaced, as we see that many UKIP Labour voters actually went to UKIP. But so I don't think there's a real drive in that sense in the kind of core Tory party. Or I think there is a possibility that it can almost happen a bit by accident, I think, in the way that we may see with a kind of Greek exit for the EU, almost that parties are kind of pushed into particular negotiating policies. So is a possibility. I don't think it's it's actually desired. Finally, I just want to talk about migrants, particularly what's going on in the Mediterranean. Theresa May has already said she wants to reject a quota plan to settle migrants who are rescued from the sea. So I'm afraid absolutely no glimmer of hope there. But I just want to say, let's not forget the EU actually wanted to bomb Libyan ports. So, we might say, okay, Theresa May's taking the soft approach. So very finally, and my time is up, I just want to say that I don't think I would argue that these policies would actually have been hugely different under Labour. Now, one of the things we see with foreign and security policies, there is often a kind of continuity between parties. Labour pledged in its manifesto to hugely increase powers of state surveillance. I think we would have seen something similar. Also, of course, on the infamous Edstone, the promise to limit immigration, and we know that New Labour, when in power, was extremely militarily kind of interventionist. So, more, I think, continuity rather than change, and also, I think, policies that wouldn't be that dissimilar under a Labour government.